Well, it's 1 after 1500 here on the Pacific Coast. My name is Ryan Millbern. I am the president of the International Casino and Resort Working Dog Association. Thank you guys for coming today. We've got a special presentation today that's a little bit gross, but very much needed. And a lot of folks out there don't really understand the bedbug side of the house. So we have some great guests here today. First off, we've got Diego Rodriguez from Preventive Pest Las Vegas. He'll be starting us off, and then after that will be Dr. Aaron Ashton, who is from the Louisiana State University Entomology Department. And actually, I have that backwards. We're going to start with Dr. Ashton, and then we'll go to Diego. But thank you again for coming today, and a pleasant good afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. We've got some folks from all over the world, actually, today. So thank you for coming. Let's go ahead and we will get started. So let's see. Whoever wants to go first. We can go with Diego or Dr. Ashton. Who would like to go first?
I can go. I'm ready. You guys want?
All right, Doc, go ahead and jump in. Let me.
All right. That way, I'll set up the bed bugs before Diego helps you guys find them.
Sounds good. Let's see here. All right, we've got you spotlighted. The floor is yours, my friend. And again, thank you for coming today.
Of course. Now, can you see the screen okay? Are you seeing me or the screen?
I currently just see you.
I can see your screen, Aaron.
Let's see if, as long as we can see the screen. Okay.
Yep, everybody, I guess, can see your screen, so you're good to go.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and get started. Today I'm going to give you guys some general information about bedbug behaviors, and then some work that I did during at Purdue University. However, I'm currently at LSU, Louisiana State University. And so, of course, I just have to show you that. And even then, I don't even think I'm going to be doing bedbugs total justice. I'm just going to kind of be able to give you guys an overview about bedbugs. And of course, I'd be happy to talk about them again in the future if you ever need. So, bedbugs. They are in the family Simidae, and they are exclusively parasitic. There's about 100 100 species of Simids out there, and they are all obligate parasites. They all need to obtain blood meals from their host in order to grow and develop. Now, one of the reasons why I like to show this lineup is essentially, even though there's a lot of different bedbug species, you're usually only going to be dealing with the common bedbug, which is over here in A1 and A2. Now, of course, there's bat bugs, there's swallow bugs. There's also the tropical bedbug that has resurged or has come back as a pest on a global scale. But primarily, you're going to be encountering the common bedbug, Simex lectularius. So you have your male over here. They have a little bit more of a pointed abdomen at their end. And then your female, she's a little bit bigger and rounder. And of course, we're more concerned from the management perspective about the females because they have very high reproductive potential. A female bedbug can lay up to 500 eggs in her lifetime. So that's quite a bit of individuals. And especially at a fast pace. So it takes about a month or so for a bedbug to become an adult. Okay. So, of course, they're obligate blood feeders. That means they're feeding on blood. They're biting us, and they're biting other organisms as well. Typically, this is chickens, bats, other birds, sometimes other mammals. Bedbugs have been found to feed on rodents and mice, rodents, rats when they have a chance, mice as well. And you can see from these photos here that we have a reaction to their bites. Typically, it results in a itchy raised welt. They're called wheals with a W-H-E-L, not like a wheel, but spelled slightly different, or welts. And these bites can become infected if they are over scratched, essentially introducing a pathogen into that wound. The bedbugs themselves are not going to be causing the infection. Now, in some cases, bedbug bites can actually be so bad and so problematic with individuals that we have a medical condition named for it. and it's called semicosis. So if somebody shows up to the emergency room or a medical office, this is what the diagnosis that they would be given. Something that's a little interesting about bed bugs is that the bite reactions can vary by person. And so you can see what a typical reaction is like in these photos here, but some people don't react to bites at all. So elderly individuals, for example, they might not have a reaction to the bed bug bite. Alternatively, individuals can have a delayed reaction. So there's a person that works in my lab, and they fed a bed bug on themselves just to see how they would react. And they actually found that about 2 or 3 days later, they had a welt develop. And in more extreme reactions, there have been implications where somebody had anaphylaxis with a bed bug bite. However, that's pretty rare. We do know that bed bugs are medical pests, not only because, of course, they're feeding upon blood, but those immunoglobulin reactions in response to their bites. So we do actually see some changes in our physiology after we have been fed upon by a bed bug. And to make things worse, we also know that bed bugs impact people's mental health. They cause stress, anxiety, they worsen ability to sleep. So of course, if you're at home at night thinking about bed bugs, it's going to be harder for you to sleep while you're in that bed, you're in your chair, etc. And it can also cause individuals to engage in more extreme behavior if they do have an underlying mental health condition. Some people have accidentally set their houses on fire, and there is, even in rare cases, an individual has committed suicide because of bed bugs. So a little bit about bed bug behaviors, just to tell you a little bit about what they do. So they're feeding, of course. They obtain a blood meal. One thing I should go back to real quick here is you'll see that these bites, they're in clusters. I know I'm itching. I'm not bitten by a bed bug. Don't worry. But they bite in clusters because they're looking for a vein. And so they might bite and not be able to find a capillary right away. And that's why they usually will bite in multiple locations. But once they feed, they obtain a blood meal. You can see what happens is they gain size. So bed bugs are typically dorsoventrally flattened like pancakes, but they gain up to 300% in size once they obtain a blood meal. So it takes them about 15, 20 minutes to feed. They typically feed at nighttime when we're asleep, when we're defenseless. And then they return to their harborages, which is typically your bed, your nightstand, under the bed, the baseboards along the floor. And so those are the areas that bed bugs typically like to reside in, somewhere near their host. And at that point is when bed bugs will mate. You can see a male bed bug mating a female bed bug here. I don't think I have, I think I removed the content, but they have a unique mating system. It's called the traumatic insemination. The male uses his needle-like adiagus to penetrate the female's side. They do not actually use the normal route of genital contact. The female is evolved to handle this damage. She does, however, have a reduced lifespan because of that behavior. Now, bed bugs, they go back to their harborages, and they like to form aggregations because of several reasons, but one of them is this stigmotactic behavior. Essentially, they like to be in contact in tight spaces. That's what that means. And so that's why you find bed bugs in cracks and crevices in very high numbers. It also helps them reduce water loss by forming these aggregations. So they typically, like I said, they hang out with each other. And the reason why they form these aggregations is because of that stigmotactic preference. They also have aggregation pheromones. This is E2-hexanal and E2-octanal. And in addition to those two main components, they have other minor components, other aldehydes in that pheromone blend, as well as sulfones in that aggregation pheromone blend. So you can see a photo up here in the left. This is a mattress encasement and a bed bug aggregation. You can see their fecal material here. Also their cast skins or their molts. So they molt and leave their exuvia behind. That's another sign of their presence. Now you can see the fecal stains here. One thing I can tell you, if you want to differentiate fecal stains from a marker or paint or something like that, what you should do is get this material wet. And if you run, it will run. If it is bedbug fecal material, it will be a brownish reddish color. And that's how you know that's bedbug fecal stains. But these aggregations, they're maintained because of this preference for contact. And again, it helps them reduce desiccation or water loss. So bed bugs are susceptible to drying out because of their small size. Now, this is a newer study. First, it was found in 2015, but then later looked upon further and researched further. But actually, bedbug aggregation pheromones contain histamine. They make this themselves. This is similar to the histamine that would be associated with an allergic reaction, and it is present in the fecal material. And that was critical to causing bed bugs to actually aggregate in those areas and stay there. That was the missing component of that pheromone blend. So these are some of the materials that your dogs would be sniffing in the field and searching for. And of course, they have those aggregation pheromones too. We talked about those a little bit in the previous slide. So they feed, that's when they mate afterwards. So the female is somewhat defenseless at this point when she has gained this size, and that's when the male typically mates them, and that's when they're engaging in that traumatic insemination behavior. Now, males, we're going to be locating bed bugs visually to mate, so they may mount another male, they may mount another nymph, and of course that's undesirable for the receiving insect, but also that male that's mating them, because they're also reducing energy. They're losing energy by doing that. So at that point, the male or the nymph that is being mounted will emit alarm pheromones. So bed bugs also have an alarm pheromone blend. It is higher concentrations of E2-hexanal and E2-octanol. Now, this odor for bed bugs is diagnostic. Once you have smelled it, you will not forget it. I guarantee it. If you're out in the field and you find a bed bug, crush it underneath your nose. You will smell it. It smells like sweet death. That is what it is described as in the literature. But when a bed bug is mounted, and besides a female, females don't do this, but males and nymphs will release these alarm pheromones, and that signals to the male, get off me. And so they will usually dismount. Now, one thing that's important to note is that the nymph actually has a slightly different pheromone blend compared to the adults. And so actually the males can differentiate between another male and a female, or sorry, a nymph, because of those differences in pheromones. Now, there are other stimuli or other factors that will cause bed bugs to emit alarm pheromones. When you suddenly uncover them and find them, if you were to crush them, or if they were to be chewed upon by a bat, similar to crushing, right? And then if sand was poured upon them, they would release alarm pheromones. So those are the behaviors in the literature that they would respond to and emit pheromones. So bed bugs, why are we concerned with them in their management, and why is it so hard? It's because of insecticide resistance. So in the 1990s, bed bugs resurged on a global scale, and the real main factor for it is they became resistant to insecticides that we used to use for their management. They have been found to be resistant in multiple ways. So the insecticides don't bind to the sites as well as they used to. The bedbug metabolism allows them to detoxify those insecticides. And there has been changes in the cuticle or the exoskeleton of those bed bugs. So the insecticide is less likely to actually enter the organism. And because of that, we want to use IPM, Integrated Pest Management, which combines chemical and non-chemical control techniques. Now, essentially, there's been a lot of studies that have shown, and over here, there's this graph I'm going to point you to, where essentially, if you're using IPM for bedbug management, you're able to get better control. And so you can see here at about week 4 in this red line, the IPM program, they've eliminated bed bugs. But in this program where they were only using insecticidal sprays, they bounced back. So we really want to be combining chemical and non-chemical control techniques. Now, one of those really popular control techniques that also returned with bed bugs is the use of heat for bed bug elimination. And it's essentially used in a few different ways. But heat has the advantage compared to insecticidal sprays is that it can kill all bed bug life stages. So at around 113, the nymphs and adults will start to die. And then around 122 degrees Fahrenheit, we start to kill the eggs. Now, it doesn't require a lot of preparation by the tenants, and typically there isn't a need to find all of the bed bug harboring locations in that home. However, if you were to use a dog, for example, you would be able to potentially find them and help with that heat treatment as well. Point out those hot spots to the pest control operators. Now, heat is used in 3 different ways. The topical application of steam, like using a carpet steamer, as you can see here, this individual doing. You can use these heated containers where luggage is put into a box and essentially heated to bedbug lethal temperatures for a specific amount of time, 122. And then similarly, whole unit heating. And this is really kind of like the big guns. You're using heat as a fumigant to manage bedbugs. And so you can see these generators here in this upper right photo. And essentially, they're pumping heated air into the home for 6 to 8 hours to get over 122 degrees Fahrenheit in those bedbug harboring locations for enough time to kill all those bedbugs. So heat does work well when done properly, but it also has some disadvantages. There is no residual protection, so bedbugs can reinfest. It can be expensive. You can break things in that home that are sensitive to heat. It can take a lot of work for pest control operators. The people that live there have to leave. And in some cases, pest control operators were reporting that bedbugs were surviving heat treatments, but we didn't really understand why at the time. And so there were some studies that were done about bedbug behavior. And in this one study in 2015, they found that bedbugs were moving away from heated areas in apartments. Then using those heated units that you can put your luggage in, they found that bedbugs were moving inside those suitcases to avoid the heated areas. And then finally, there was a publication in 2018 where Stephen Kells pointed out that bedbugs will move away from sublethally heated areas in apartments. And so we know that bedbugs, when they're not fed, they're attracted to heated objects. So behaviorally, they will approach things that are around 109 degrees Fahrenheit or less, right around human body temperature, of course, as well. And then at high temperatures, at around 118.5, they start to become repelled by those heated objects. We also know that if you take bedbugs and you cut off their antennae, they can't really detect heat anymore. So the antennae are really responsible for detecting heat. They don't have heat vision or anything like that. And so we asked ourselves, what are the responses of bedbugs to sublethal heat exposure? Is there some behavior that they are displaying that is allowing them to survive heat treatments? And so we wanted to figure that out. And so I did a study where essentially I collected bedbug field strains. I fed them blood, so they were all well fed. They would not respond to heat as a cue for food. And I put them in this little tube harborage. And essentially what I did is I heated those bedbugs from room temperature to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And I observed their behaviors during this heat exposure. And I looked to see at what temperatures did bedbugs run away from this harborage area that I created, these tubes, and if bedbugs were able to locate unheated areas. And so I created these little cups, and you can see a bedbug circled here, and it did successfully escape from that heated area. So I just wanted to see what temperatures do they run away, and can they actually survive a heat treatment and find an unheated area. And so I'm just going to show you a video now. Okay, good, it works. Oh, maybe it's not. Okay, now it's working. So you can see essentially the bedbugs responding to the heated surface. They are crawling away from that heated floor and moving up in that harborage. You can see when they move down, they suddenly recognize that the temperature is warmer than that harborage, and they move back inside. So actually, there is a certain temperature range that you actually have to reach to force bedbugs out of their harborage before they want to flee. We're going to get there here in the coming slide. But this is just showing you how they respond in that arena at lower temperatures, but not lethal temperatures for bedbugs. And so what we found is that as the temperatures increase, the probability of those bedbugs to flee that harborage also increased. So at around 102, there was a 25% chance that a bed bug would flee. But at 116, there was a 75% chance that that bed bug would try to leave that harborage and find a site to hide and survive. And so one thing that I didn't mention, but we were looking at as well, is to see if bed bug populations behaved differently, and they didn't. So they all responded to heat in a similar way. But we did find that bed bugs were actually able to escape from those heated areas at temperatures between 113 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are temperatures that are lethal for bed bugs. And so that gives you an idea that there is a window of opportunity for bed bugs to escape from a heated area and find successful areas to survive. Now, when temperatures were above 116 and to 120 degrees, they could no longer tolerate that harborage, being in that harborage anymore. They had to run away in order to survive. And so something to consider is that if somebody is doing a heat treatment in a large home, that treatment is going to be prolonged. It's going to take a longer time to get that area up to the bedbug lethal temperatures, creating a bigger opportunity or a greater opportunity for bedbugs to escape and survive that heat treatment. Now, we did another thing with bedbug alarm pheromones. I don't know if I have a slide for it. Okay. We actually found that bedbugs were emitting alarm pheromones in the field when we were steaming them. And so I was like, okay, is there something to this? Is there a reason why bedbugs are emitting alarm pheromones in response to heat? And so we wanted to see if, again, if bedbugs were emitting pheromones in response to heat and if other bedbugs responded to that. And so essentially what you can see here is I took a bedbug, I put them on a hot plate. They were contained in a glass funnel. I heated them again to those same temperatures, room temperature to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we used this SIFT MS, soft ion flow tube mass spectrometer. I know that's just a bunch of gobbledygook. It is to me too. But essentially what this is a real-time sniffer. It detects volatile pheromones in real time as they are being produced. And so that's how we were actually able to see how bedbugs respond or emit alarm pheromones in response to heat exposure. And here it is. So I exposed 2 different populations of bedbugs to heat, and we found that in response to lethal temperatures, right around 44.5 degrees Celsius is when this would happen, bedbugs would emit alarm pheromones. High concentrations of E2-hexanal and E2-oxanal. I took dead bedbug cadavers, I heated them as well, and they did not emit alarm pheromones. So we knew that they had to be alive in order to be heat killed and emitting alarm pheromones. And these are just some other treatments. You can see that we repeated this with sublethal heat exposure. So if you expose a bedbug to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, I think it was 106 degrees Fahrenheit, sorry, 41 degrees Celsius, 106 Fahrenheit, I believe. You can also cause bedbugs to emit alarm pheromones. They survived this heat treatment, so they were alive at that point. But basically, we showed that knockdown temperatures that cause sublethal mortality in bedbugs also causes them to emit alarm pheromones. So again, like I said, right around 42, 41 degrees Celsius, we saw that bedbugs would emit alarm pheromones. We also saw that they would emit alarm pheromones when they were killed by heat. We also saw that the concentrations varied between the laboratory population and the field population, and the amount of pheromones also varied by males and females. So there are some trade-offs between the size likely in these individuals. Now, this is kind of my last thing, just to prove that bedbugs would respond to those pheromones. I took a lighter. This was actually in the lab now, or back at Purdue. This was I did the heat pheromone work at a different location. I took a bedbug. I passed them through this flame 3 times, and I would drop them through that glass funnel. Use the same glass funnel that we used in that previous experiment. And now I'm going to show you a video of a bedbug responding to those alarm pheromones. So you have your heat-killed bedbug right here, and you can see the bedbug running around in response to the alarm pheromone. So the alarm pheromone causes bedbugs to disperse. and behave in a frantic way. They basically run away from the area, as you can see here in this video. And I'll play it one more time. Essentially, the bedbug is detecting the pheromones in different locations and then changing direction in response to detecting those pheromones. And I did multiple experiments showing that they responded to heat-induced pheromones from bedbugs. I'm not going to show you all of those here, but basically we did prove that bedbugs emitted alarm pheromones and the nearby bedbugs respond to those. And that was really the important part, is trying to determine that nearby bedbugs did respond to those alarm pheromones emitted by heat-killed bedbugs. We think that this could be an adaptive response to heat exposure or just death in general, and that notifying nearby bedbugs is important because you're likely highly related to those bedbugs in a colony, and if they survive, your genes are passed on to the next generation, at least if you're going to die. So there could be some adaptive nature associated with alarm pheromone emission and death. Now, we did see that it was a short range. The bedbugs could only respond in areas less than 100 millimeters. Bedbugs form tight aggregations though, right? They like to hang out with each other, and that makes sense that it would be short range. You don't need a long range pheromone if you're all right next to each other. And that makes sense, right? Like I was just saying, those small areas of aggregation would mean that you need a short range pheromone. But what's really important is that pest control operators can expect that heat will cause bedbugs to emit alarm pheromones, and that conspecifics will respond to those heat-emitted pheromones and run away and try to find areas that might allow them to survive that heat treatment. So your take-home message from these two studies are that bedbugs survive heat treatments likely due to insufficient heat, but they also behaviorally respond and run away. So sometimes pest control operators, they'd get it up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit and they're just like, oh, I'm done, see you later. But no, we don't want to do that. You want to hold that temperature for enough time to get to kill those bedbugs too. After a heat treatment, what you want to do is search for thermally insulated areas where bedbugs may have survived and treat them accordingly. And maybe that could be a good role for the bedbug detecting dogs. Now, something to consider is that desiccant dusts may be an effective way to treat cracks and crevices to prevent bedbugs from locating those harborage sites and surviving. But you also have to consider that because there is no residual protection left behind a heat treatment, that somebody could have reintroduced those bed bugs afterwards. Somebody could have brought them over, or, and I didn't show this, is that actually bed bugs that survive heat treatments don't feed right away. And so they're not going to bite somebody right afterwards either. So you can have a case where a bed bug survives a heat treatment and they're just not feeding right afterwards. And that what is allowing them to go undetected for a little bit. Okay, I'd like to thank all of you, as well as the invitation to speak today. I did this work with Dr. Amaya Gondolaker, as well as several other committee members at Purdue. I had some help from other individuals. And this was some work that was supported by NPMA, National Pest Management Association, and some other organizations at Purdue as well. And I think we're going to save questions for the end, but I'll be around as well. I'll be happy to take any questions now too.
Excellent. I think we'll do questions at the end if that's okay. But thank you, Dr. Ashbrook. You packed a ton of information there that is helpful whether you're a pest control guy or you're a dog guy. So truly, thank you. That was amazing. With that, I think we'll turn it over to Diego Rodriguez, who is with Preventive Pest here in Las Vegas. He's also one of our instructors and certifying officials here at the Casino and Resort Working Dog Association. Let's see if we can get Diego up. Let's see here. Diego, can you make yourself the spotlight and jump on in?
I'll try.
There we go.
Can you guys see my screen?
Uh, at the moment, I see just your face. Oh, there we go.
All righty.
All right, we've got your slides up, and the floor is yours, Diego.
Okay. Let me do a couple little adjustments and I'll be right there. All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you all had a roaring start to 2025. Here in Vegas, we've already had an action-packed January. Thank you, Dr. Ashbrook, for your introduction on bedbugs. That was pretty awesome. I was taking notes and I heard that bedbugs have cell phones, and I had to look up to see that it was some fancy scientific word I don't remember anymore, but that made me laugh. I learned a lot from that myself.
Me too.
Uh, Thank you, Ryan, for putting this webinar together. It's really nice to get a chance to put this information out there.
Absolutely my pleasure.
So I get the pleasure of speaking to you guys about the handling of bedbug canines. There's so much we can cover. However, we kind of have to keep it brief today. And you'll actually see why a lot of the stuff we covered with Dr. Ashbrook comes into play for us and why we need to be aware of it. So that was pretty cool. There we go. Okay. So we will discuss why, as handlers, pest control companies, detection companies, hotels and resorts, canine bedbug detection is a good choice. We will cover some things that should be addressed prior to even bringing a dog into a search, such as prep sheets for residents, when and where to take our dogs, and when and where we're not going to take our dogs. We will speak on how to deal with people that take note of and may want to interact with our working dogs, as well as understanding that many people are not bedbug experts and we have to properly take in the information they give us. We'll compare the difference in live-only bedbug dogs versus all evidence dogs. And then we will talk about the three main types of inspections, which are proactive, reactive, and post-treatment inspections. And then we'll quickly cover how they each require a different approach. So, why is it a good idea to use dogs to inspect for bedbugs? Dogs have been used to find bedbugs for about 20 years now, and the earliest study I found was completed in a very controlled environment back in 2008. It showed that canine teams were very efficient in locating bedbugs with minimal false alerts. Later, studies conducted in more realistic settings found canine teams to be a bit less accurate. As good and as fast as a skilled technician can be, dogs can cover much larger areas. Dogs can also cover these areas much quicker than us two-legged inspectors. If you practice often, your team can cover a lot of space quickly and accurately. We as humans rely on sight, which is good. However, it limits how well we can find bed bugs. I always tell people that my dog can smell around a corner and can smell through things like fabric. Plus, people just love dogs. They get excited, they get curious, and they tend to feel better when a dog shows up. As bedbug dog handlers, we're fortunate that we have a lot of control about the areas we search. We have the ability to refuse an inspection if we don't deem it to be safe. When people ask me why we use prep sheets, I respond by saying it's for two reasons. First, and it's first for a good reason, it's for the safety of my dog. I have a lot of time, money, effort, and love invested in my dogs, and I'm sure you guys do too. The second reason I give is that prep sheets are there to help them receive a more accurate inspection. Truth is that the more effort they put into their preparation, the better the chances the canine team performs well. If my time during the inspection is spent trying to figure out if my dog is trying to eat something off the floor or smelling their pet ferret, I feel the accuracy will go down. You also don't want an area to be too hot, or the dog will be trying to cool their body down by breathing hard. which means sniffing a lot less. Smoking and strong fragrances are an issue as well. When the dog spends the entire time sneezing, it can't be working odor, and the accuracy will drop drastically. And notice how at the bottom of my sheet here, I put that the canine handler has final discretion. So if I'm not running my dog because I don't feel that's the right thing to do, I'm not running my dog. We go where people live, and that means we come across some odd things. The first picture on the left was taken in a fairly clean government housing unit. The resident had not even peeked at the prep sheet, and she was furious when I told her I would not be bringing in my dog. I then completed a visual inspection and found a bunch of downers in her recliner, right near where there was evidence of bed bugs. Same thing with the picture on the top right. The resident held onto some samples and placed them conveniently next to some tweezers, a screw, some pills, and a white powdery substance right on top of that small mirror. These hazards have a tendency of being located in areas where we want our dogs to search, such as by the baseboards and behind furniture. My friend Kim had an issue where her dog consumed a hazard and had to be taken to an emergency vet. She made sure they had a toxicologist on staff. I think she told me she even now carries Narcan just in case. Please have a contingency plan in place. I also don't inspect when it's a hoarding situation. It is impossible to know what hazards are hiding in there and very difficult to accurately run a dog on that. All of these hoarders had bed bugs at one point. The lady in the top picture decided to prep her unit by moving her bed bugs, her stuff, into a U-Haul so we could do our job better. I couldn't convince her that that was not a good idea. I often am greeted with, "Where's the dog?" Which I respond by saying, "It's so nice to see you too." We bring our dogs to places people don't often expect to see working dogs, and they don't always know how to interact properly. You will get the people who want really bad to say hi to your dog. You will also come across the, "What's the dog looking for? Bombs? Drugs guy?" Some replies that you may want to consider are, "He's looking for bugs," leaving out the bed part. For customer privacy, I cannot share. When I'm searching a medical facility, I respond that due to HIPAA laws, I cannot say, which is true. Sometimes I'll say nothing at all. And sometimes I'll be completely honest and say that the dogs are looking for bed bugs. You have to know your audience and how they will respond to you, then give them the appropriate answer. During an inspection, I never allow more than one person in the area. If it's a private home, only one adult can stay, and they are instructed to play the mannequin game, which means they do not interact with the dog, even if the dog approaches them. An alternative is to have the resident wait outside and look through the window or the sliding glass door. In a setting such as government housing or in apartments, I never allow the resident to remain in the unit. I have learned that they do not know how to behave and interfere with my inspection. I will allow one member of the office staff or the maintenance staff to be present. And finally, if you allow people to pet your dogs, always do it last. For most of my dogs, it's something they love to do. They would much rather be doing that than playing with bugs or looking for bugs sometimes. Doing it last will help them understand that inspections are the primary focus. I am a pest control professional, and even if you are not, understanding pests is a must for you. Let's take a look at Mr. Sam Devante's bedbug find of 2022 here. He was even kind enough to leave us a sample. Perfect. No? If you paid attention during Dr. Ashbrook's presentation, you can tell that that is not a bedbug. It is in fact a cockroach. We have to take the information that residents give us and run it through our filter of knowledge. This post has made its rounds online. She believed these lovely ladybugs were visiting her every morning as a message from her loved ones that have passed. Hopefully by now, you know better. It is very important that we mention before we jump into this part that we are not medical professionals and we cannot tell people they have this. However, it exists in our world. We must be aware of it and be able to recognize it. Delusional parasitosis is a mental health condition that causes people to falsely believe they are infested with parasites, insects, or other organisms. What causes this? I wish I knew. My guess is that people who suffer from this condition may have had a negative experience with bedbugs in the past, may have an irrational fear of bedbugs, or it may be a mental health shortcoming that can only be addressed by mental health professionals.
Or lots of meth.
There's actually a story to that later, Ryan, that we could talk about, but let's save it for later.
Sounds good.
This is my good friend Clinton, who has since passed away. And yes, he knew I was taking the picture, I promise. I was called by his office because he had 1,000 bed bugs. I arrived and asked him what was going on. He informed me that when it gets warm, thousands of bed bugs come out of the carpet and he could show me. He then proceeded to run a hairdryer to force them to come out. During this moment pictured here, he could see them and told me that it was okay that I could not because he had saved me some samples. Those are your samples to the left. Often samples will be on lint rollers, sandwich bags, pill containers, or cups. So what do you do now? My reply is that as a pest control professional, my job is to identify insects. I use insect body parts for identification, such as antenna, wings, legs, and body segments, and I let them know that I cannot see any of those there. Identification requires a license in some states, so please be sure that you are following your local regulations. Defer to your pest control company if needed. One time, I even saw a 3,500 square foot home, a very nice home, by the way, covered completely from top to bottom in pesticide dust. I mean, every single square inch. In that case, I walked away and simply told them I was not going to be able to help them. I still remember my white powder footprints down her driveway, down the street, and to my truck. One choice that we all have to make at the beginning is if we want to have live-only dogs or all evidence dogs. What is your objective? I chose to run live bug only dogs because I need my dogs to find live bed bugs and viable eggs amongst dead bed bugs dropping cast skins and non-viable eggs. Some situations may require an all evidence dog. For example, if the threshold for bed bugs is 0, like at a 5-star resort, you may opt for an all evidence dog. Some people see bedbug detection as an easy way into detection and assume they can train any dog. Please be wise with your dog selection and stringent with your training. The first type of inspection that we will cover are proactive inspections. Proactive inspections are when you go through blocks of rooms, whole buildings, or an entire property without a specific concern. Depending on your agreement with the property, this can be done weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, or even annually. These inspections provide benefits to the client like reduced liability, control of downroom times, and finding the pest issue before the guests do. They're beneficial to you because you have better control of your schedule. It provides the ability to have recurring income, and the ability to earn more money with treatments if you do those, or referral fees to your pest control company. Before you price out jobs, you need to know what your team is capable of and what you are trying to make, then weigh that out with what your client is likely to pay. With these inspections, I let my dogs do more independent searches with some presentations unless I see a change in behavior. Then we might get a little more detailed, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. You need to be aware of how much time you spend in each room. That way you can keep track of your progress versus how long your dog can search effectively. I have found that most hotels that bring you in have a positive rate of about 5 to 10%. I've also noticed a correlation between price points and infestation rates. The lower the price point of a room, the higher the threshold and the possibility of a bedbug infestation. This is a perfect opportunity for you to set up training scenarios while you get paid. As you complete these inspections, figure out what type of search pattern you like. Do you want to search in one direction and then have them come back to do the other way? I have some clients that want me to check rooms after they've been made up. Whatever, it's their property. In these cases, I always keep my dog on a short leash, and we must remain calm to avoid getting dog hair and paw prints everywhere. My favorite is to have them do an independent search with some presentations at the end. You can have them search low, go back and search at a normal height, then finish on a search of high items. The second type of inspection we do are reactive inspections. In these situations, we get called when someone believes they have bed bugs and a visual inspection yielded no results. The client may have seen a bug they believe to be a bed bug. They may be getting bit and simply want answers, or they may have been in proximity to an issue. When customers request these type of inspections, they typically don't want to wait long, expecting a prompt visit. You should charge more for these inspections because you may have to move your schedule around. Here, you also have the opportunity to make money with treatments or referral fees. This is where your familiarity with pests comes into play and will separate you from the competition. Remember that sometimes bites may be caused by other things, such as an allergic reaction to carpet beetles, or they may have happened elsewhere. Here, you must be more controlled with your search pattern because your accuracy must be as high as possible. You are more likely to find something here, and if you are able to, go ahead and complete a good visual inspection. Conducting reactive inspections requires attention to detail that is not as essential in proactive inspections. Here, you have to do more than present. You have to do a detailed search. Have your dog go up on the bed and check items that are above also. Detail headboards, which are getting increasingly larger, offering more places for bed bugs to hide. If your dog leads you somewhere you didn't expect, pay attention and go investigate. If you think back to what Dr. Ashbrook was teaching, the heat, making them move and stuff like that, a lot of similar things happen after bedbug treatments with chemicals. So that's why it's very important that you understand why bedbugs behave the way they do. The final type of inspection we complete is post-treatment. We complete these to find out if a pest control service was successful. The flip side of that coin will show that what areas are still having issues. These inspections help provide closure for clients that have been dealing with this nightmare. Adding a canine inspection to complete a service is another way to stand out in the industry. You can even build your inspection cost into the treatment cost. It might help you sell it better. Companies are able to use a cleared canine inspection as the end of their warranty, whether it's a 14-day, 30-day, or even a 90-day warranty. This is a good way to send it home. What you learn about bedbugs and pest control will pay dividends here. You must know why and how the different types of treatments will affect the movement of bedbugs. Remember, we have one of the few odors that can move on its own. Each client may have a different need on when they require an area to be clear. Please allow at least 48 hours after a heat treatment to ensure all live bug odors are gone. That way, if you get an indication, you know there are still live bed bugs and not a residual odor that you're dealing with. Longer wait times are preferable. Unfortunately, for all evidence dogs, your dog is of no use here. Everyone else, make sure that you're consistently training to proof your dogs off of dead bed bugs and the other evidence. The number one priority is always the safety of your dog. If there are pesticides everywhere, decline to do the inspection. Keep in mind that human behavior and pesticides can and will affect where your bugs are found. And I would like to add that heat treatments will too. Early on, I was called out to a failed heat treatment to see if I could figure out what may be going on. I brought my dog in and I sent him to search. He went to the wall-mounted AC unit and indicated. That day we learned that there were bugs close enough to escape the heat and came back in after the heat was removed. Bottom line is don't pigeonhole your thinking. As we wrap up, remember to be continually training. Set up a good training system. Use different training aids and containers. Dr. Ashbrook found that lab-maintained bugs and wild bugs react differently to heat treatments. I have found that they smell different as well. Ensure that your dog generalizes the odor, including lab bugs, wild bugs, even soaks and pseudoscents. The absolute best training aid you can use is what you find in its natural environment. Stay up to date on what we're doing in the pest control industry. As our understanding continues to evolve, our processes evolve with it, and it may change how we approach bed bugs. Stay on top of your training logs. It helps as you debrief things with others or by yourself as you notate what transpired. Train with others, even competitors and canine handlers from other disciplines. Here you will learn so much, maybe even better or different approaches. Always push yourself with goals because there's always something you can do better. And that's it for me.
Well, as always, Diego, awesome job. Thank you for putting that together. Definitely super helpful, especially for the newer bedbug teams or guys that are thinking about getting into the bedbug detection side. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Let's see. I'm going to.
And I haven't seen any of the questions from the chat, but I think there's a little bit of discussion we can have that will kind of tie the whole webinar together once we're all said and done.
Excellent. All right. Let me see if I can get my presentation up. All right. Can you see my slides, Diego?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will go through this rather quickly and then we'll get to the question and answer period at the end. But obviously, with ICRWDA, we get asked all the time about how some of the larger hotels are running their own in-house bedbug detection programs, and really why do they do it? How do they do it? And what does it really add to that particular brand or casino or hotel? And then, of course, I get asked a lot too, how can an outsider kind of create their own bedbug detection dog program for some of the smaller casinos and resorts that may still want to pay for that service, but not necessarily be tied to a specific pest control company. So we'll kind of just go through this rather quick. My background, I come from the law enforcement side, and I spent a few years in Iraq as a bomb dog handler and trainer out there. I did narcotics work with my police dog there. That's Canine Star. who I miss very much. And I quite honestly owe my life to her, among other dogs. That's Star up when we were up in Colorado, running interdiction off of I-70. Also, I was attached to the Baghdad Embassy Security Force as a trainer and handler out there. That is my canine Hexie, who more than once saved my life and brought me home to my family. So, very much owe her a debt that I can never repay, but that's part of why we have ICRWDA. And that is little Miss Hexie there in Baghdad. So lastly, I'm the mascot, well, at least my dog is a mascot for the Las Vegas Desert Dogs here in Las Vegas. And of course, I'm very proud to be the president of the International Casino and Resort Working Dog Association and formerly the senior program manager of Canine Ops at the Wynn, which included a bedbug program. I think most of you are pretty familiar with ICRWDA at this point, but if you're not, we are a nonprofit 501c3 that provides a whole ton of different things, including webinars like this. All right, so one of the first things that people ask about a bedbug program within a hotel is how does it save money? Because of course, if you're on the outside and you're trying to get business from a hotel or casino, or quite frankly, you've got a already working canine unit that's looking for firearms or bombs, but you want to add something else in there, the savings is usually the things that get a hotel or casino's attention. For us at the Win, when I was there, every year we saved over $100,000, and that is actual income, that is actual money. Sometimes in these casinos, there's kind of play money between different departments, but this was literally between $120,000 and $150,000 every year for a whole variety of things. Mainly, it was unnecessary remediation. So, of course, at a five-star resort, those complaints, if there's a bed bug in a room, those complaints are taken extremely seriously. And again, that doesn't matter if it's Caesars or Venetian or wherever you may be staying. If it's a luxury resort, they actually care about these complaints. And in the past, if they did not have a dog, they would have to just go ahead and remediate that room. They would pay either their in-house pest control or an outside corporation to come in and do that. And in most cases, it's not just the room with the complaint. Many places would do what's known as a 9-block or a 6-block, meaning they would block off not only the room that had the initial complaint, however, they would block off the rooms around it and then pay for remediation for each of those rooms, which, as you can imagine, can add up quite quickly. But what that also does is it puts those rooms out of service. So now you're also not able to make the normal income on those rooms. And for most of the resorts here in Vegas, our occupancy is anywhere from 95 to 100%, especially on the weekends. So if you have 9 rooms blocked off for a single complaint, you are missing out on a ton of revenue by knocking those rooms out. And usually they're out for 3 to 6 days on top of that. So just the simple savings when you're talking about a simple bed bug detection dog coming in and being able to sweep a room. Most of our dogs at the Win, we could sweep a room within 6 minutes at the most and tell if there was actually a bed bug in there. Because, of course, if you just get a complaint, as Diego alluded to with the cockroach and the bug, most people don't know what a bed bug actually looks like. They have a mosquito bite or they see some other kind of bug and immediately, because they're in a hotel, think, oh my God, it must be a bed bug. So again, we're wasting as resorts wasting tons of money, time, and revenue on something that's not even a bed bug to begin with. So, but bringing in these kind of inspections, one of the biggest proponents generally of bed bug detection from a dog is your guest claims department. They need all the help they can get because, of course, the people are complaining, and we've had people complain about taking bugs home. They want the hotel to pay for fumigating their entire house. They want all their clothes replaced. And before you know it, your guest claims department can see tens of thousands of dollars of complaints and people wanting that back. And of course, that it's guest claims job to, I mean, of course, find the truth, but also to mitigate any of those kind of things. So guest claims loves being able to say, hey, this dog came in, the dog is certified by an independent third party, and the dog says there was no bed bugs in there, so we're going to close out your claim. Also with bed bug detection dogs, your local health departments sometimes can have a ton of power when it comes to inspecting your hotel or casino, or shutting it down, or making these complaints public. So here in Southern Nevada, the Southern Nevada Health District is really the main hub when it comes to complaints. And of course, that is public knowledge. And you're going to see some stories here in a little while about different hotels that are on that list. Well, when you have your own in-house program, or you can show the health department that you are using a canine program that again is certified by third party. A lot of those times, the health department will throw that complaint away. It's much easier for them to not have to come inspect or to shut it down. And quite frankly, sometimes they just leave you off of the complaint list because they've met your canine. They know that you're using canines, and they know that you're taking those complaints seriously. So it is a huge boon to keep your brand, whatever that brand is, off of the health department complaint list. And then lastly, well, just as important to some extent, the guest experience. Your guests, they want to know that they're safe. Mostly what we see are the bomb dogs or the firearms dogs, and we hear that all the time, that people feel safe just seeing a dog walking. They don't even know what that dog is there for. They don't know if it's bomb dog, firearms dog, or bedbug dog, or whatever it is, but they know that they're in a safe place, and that whatever brand that is actually cares about their safety and their health when it comes to the bedbug side of things. Here in a little bit, I'm also going to show you a news video of them interviewing people about bedbug detection dogs in hotels. And definitely want you to look at the reaction of these people there. It's just kind of man on the street interview. They absolutely want to know that where they're staying has a dog to make sure that they're safe and then they're not going to get bit. So, and then also, to me, the guest experience, of course, but it also increases your brand reputation. So, whatever your brand is, again, you're going to see this video, and every brand marketing person, and even people that aren't in brand marketing, you just work at this hotel, whether you're in housekeeping or food and beverage, or you work at a restaurant, you don't want to see the name of your employer on a news video of it being bed bugs in infestation. So it just helps your brand in many ways. And of course, we already talked about increasing revenue with keeping those rooms available for revenue after any kind of complaints. So let's just kind of talk about the guest experience for a second. Like I said, it's an assurance of commitment to the health of your guests. So they know that they're safe in every other way, security, uh, especially, but also that they're safe from health. Of course, they go into restaurants, there's a health code thing in front of every restaurant to help them feel safe when they go in, that they know they're not going to get food poisoning or whatever. Having a public bed bug detection program again brings that guest experience to a new level. So here's one web page that has it. And of course, I only put the headline there, but these 7 Las Vegas resorts had bed bugs over the last 18 months. No matter whether you're coming to Vegas or not, you want to read and see who those 7 are, right? Because of course you don't want to stay there. You want to tell your friends, oh my God, don't stay at these 7 hotels. And again, if you're on the brand marketing side or an employee or whatever, the last thing you want to see is your hotel on that list. Here's a quick another news story that just makes you quiver if you're in the casino or resort industry.
If you're traveling to Las Vegas, beware of bed bugs. The Southern Nevada Health District says they've received multiple complaints involving 19 hotels in the Las Vegas Strip. I'm going to read you the list because it's pretty extensive. It includes...
Now, I teach this course at different gaming conventions really all over the world, and I can just see the people, all of the people out at the table or in the seats, thinking, oh, please God, don't list my employer. So again, this is just, it's such a unique thing. having a bed bug detection team to come in and mitigate this stuff and make sure that your hotel and casino isn't on this list is huge. So again, we kind of talked about the visibility of the canines that increases feelings of safety. And now again, it doesn't have to be part of a larger canine unit that already has bomb dogs, that already has firearms dogs. You, as an independent, you can market your dog as simply a visual deterrent, even though it's a bed bug dog. So you can come in, do the inspections for whatever hotel it is. You can do the proactive ones. You can also respond to the complaints for a different fee. And quite frankly, you can talk with the security department or the brand marketing folks or whoever it is and have them pay you to just walk around. Again, you don't have to tell anybody what your dog is there for. And I promise you, any of the bad actors, the bad guys, whoever it is, they see a canine, they just assume it's a canine for whatever it is that they are guilty of or that they're about to do. At a ton of hotels here on the Strip, a lot of the bomb dog units go run the lines for the nightclubs. And you would be shocked at how much dope and drugs get thrown into the bushes as soon as they see a dog. There's no hotel in the Strip that has a drug dog. But of course, you don't tell that. And the people that have drugs in their pocket just assume, oh God, here comes a drug dog. And they throw their drugs into the bushes to the point it looks like peanut shells at a Texas Roadhouse. It is amazing how much drugs go into the bushes. So again, as a bed bug dog, especially as an independent, you can market yourself as that visual deterrence for whatever that hotel casino is. And again, you're providing that positive sense of safety that really no other portion of security can do. You can have armed SWAT guys all over the place, and people may feel safer when there's a guy with an AR strapped to his chest, but that doesn't provide the same guest experience as a fuzzy, floppy dog that someone can pet or get a baseball card. It absolutely provides that friendly and warm interaction that the guy with the AR strapped to his chest just can't do. No matter how great at guest service he is, you can't compete with a dog. And then, of course, if you do allow them to pet, that is a guest experience that those people will remember. They will take that back to wherever they were visiting from. They will remember that, especially if a big "Do Not Pet" sign on the side of your dog, and people are going to ask you anyways. But it gives them a feeling of exclusivity and a memorable experience that, again, the guy with the AR just can't compete with. Lastly, somewhat lastly, the baseball cards. If you have one for your own dog, whether you're an independent person, you can make your own baseball cards, or you can actually market that with a hotel or casino that you're working for, even as an independent, to have those baseball cards to give to guests. These are just some of the baseball cards that we used to have for my canine unit. Now, on that baseball card, I never ever put what the dog actually sniffs for. It's just here with security, and it's here to make sure everybody's safe. And people will push you on it a lot. Never give up exactly what they're there for to a guest. And then don't forget the employee experience. I can tell you, tons of employees, especially in the housekeeping department, they feel better. They have a higher job satisfaction feeling of coming to work every day when they know that there are bed bug detection dogs looking for those bugs. They don't want to take the bed bugs home to where they live, and they have to work in those rooms every single day. So don't underestimate how much a bed bug detection program with a dog can affect the employees of whatever that hotel or casino is. Here's a quick little video. You can also add these into some of your employee training and whatnot. It's kind of cute. This is Canine Max.
Food and beverage outlets. There are certain guidelines we must follow when a service animal enters one of our food and beverage outlets. Nevada Health Code requires that all service animals must be placed on the floor and are not allowed on a table or chair.
You know, I love staying in wind, don't you? Listen, we got a couple of choices. We can go out to the pool, or we can go play some roulette. What do you think there, Johnny?
Service animals may not be fed or watered in any food and beverage outlet. Casino and non-food areas. In addition to restrictions in our food and beverage areas, there are similar restrictions in our gaming areas.
I'm good.
Okay, would you like to double?
You gonna double, Johnny? Allow me.
20.
There you go. Big one, big one. That's
Yes.
it. That's how you play it. Paul.
Excuse me, Mr. Nugent.
Yes.
Is this your dog?
Which dog?
This dog.
This dog?
Yes, that dog.
No. Let's go. Deal the cards.
A service animal may not occupy any gaming chair or seat and must be on the floor. A service animal may not interfere with a game or gaming device at any time.
So using our dog into that employee training thing, in the new hire orientation, you know, you're a brand new employee, you got to learn a billion things when you come into a new property. The only thing that people remembered after 2 days of training was that video because there was a dog in it. So again, there's all these other uses for it. Again, whether you're front of house, meaning guests, or your back of house, meaning employees, they all enhance your brand. People want to work for that brand because they feel safe and it's a positive experience. Don't forget how you can use these dogs in public events. These are some of our dogs that we've done a million different things. Cancer walks, charity events, all kinds of stuff, sporting events, lots of school visits. Even if you're an independent, but you're tied to a casino, as long as the casino or the resort is okay with it, again, it's helping their brand as well. You can visit tons of schools. We've gone to a ton of schools and talked about the science of olfaction in dogs. How do we train the dogs to find the odors? And of course, the kids get to come and pet the dogs. So again, these kids go home and they remember getting to meet your dog, and especially if it's a bed bug dog. I got to say, we had more people asking about our bed bug dog at our events like this than the whole rest of our bomb dog team. But they remember this. They send us thank you cards, and of course, this is one that I very much remember and is special to me because this poor kid never got to see a German Shepherd in his entire life. That kid will remember that experience attached to that brand and as a detection dog unit, probably for the rest of his life, or at least every time he sees a dog. So lastly, here's a quick little story. It's a little chopped up because it has a whole bunch of bomb stuff in it, and we're not talking about that today. But specifically towards the end, I want you to really look at the man on the street interviews and how instantaneously people feel safer and they want these dogs in their hotels and casinos.
Las Vegas opened in 2005, and since the beginning, dogs have been a vital part of the security team. Detection canines searching everywhere from the casino to back of house, parking garages to guest room floors. And each dog has a unique role. Along with Umit, Lotto is also trained on explosives, while 9-year-old Rocket sniffs for bed bugs.
It's really a proactive program to make sure that we don't have the problem, because truly one bed bug can turn into 100 bed bugs very quickly. Well, Canine Rocket makes sure that doesn't happen.
And the dogs are running with the best of the best.
You're doing great, little guy. Well done.
During Metro's canine trials at South Point Arena last month, 80 agencies from around the country showed off their skills. And when it came down to hotel explosives detection, it was Lotto and handler Oshana Remy from Wynn Las Vegas coming out on top. Remy even becoming the first female handler to win the championship. Street Las Vegas visitors understand the importance of working dogs. No matter what, they're sniffing out.
If it keeps us safer and they're well trained.
Oh, bed bugs? Then I really want them there.
Yes, and I see them at the airport all the time, so I do travel a lot. And they do be at the airport, so as we come through, they'll walk behind us and do their job.
Kind of getting used to them everywhere.
Yes, I am.
Back at Wynn, the canines have their own trading cards and unofficial fan clubs among hotel guests. The job is serious.
Want to do it again?
Even if the dogs are in it for the toys.
Good job. Good job. Good findings. Oh, that's my boy, good hunter.
Now the canines are on property 24/7, housed in top-of-the-line kennels. And while they are super sweet, remember you cannot pet the dogs while they are working. However, handlers usually have those trading cards in their pockets to give away. Denise Rosh, News 3.
Well, all of our tails are wagging these days, right?
That is media that you cannot buy. That is brand enhancement that only comes from having a canine unit, including a bed bug detection unit. So here is my contact information. If there's anything I can ever do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's a QR code there, my email address there at the bottom. And I think I will get us back to a camera. Let's see here, and let's check for some questions. So our first question is from Kennedy, and her question is, how do they respond to cold temperature?
So they would try to move away, but the thing is as bed bugs freeze or get colder, or they essentially slow down. And if it's too cold, then they'll just basically stop and they won't be able to do anything. Because insects are poikilotherms, and so essentially as long as they're able to function, right, as long as it's warm enough for them to be able to operate. Once you get colder,
Do they essentially hibernate? You won't be able to kill them through cold?
So they are, it is harder to freeze a bed bug than to heat a bed bug. I would say that. They are more cold tolerant. They can recover from cold and like kind of hibernate like you're saying, I guess I would say, but it would kill them if it's cold enough. So I do recommend people to put their bed bug infested items in the freezer if it was something that was sensitive that they couldn't heat. Say if it was in a book, you can put that in the freezer and kill bed bugs that way. But they're not really able to do too much. It's just because, like I said, as the temperatures cool or get lower, then they can't do as much, and so they're kind of stuck.
Got it. And I think our second question is very similar. How do the bed bugs deal with the cryonite treatment?
Yeah, so I have only worked with cryonite once, and it was in a poultry barn, and it didn't work very well. Essentially, it didn't work at all. I assume that perhaps in the indoor environment it would work better. In the poultry barn, it's warm and humid, and we essentially thought that we were fighting the environment, trying to freeze the bed bugs. But essentially, it's like it would be similar to using a steamer, except on the opposite end. It's the same kind of concept. Instead of putting hot steam on the insects, you're putting cold carbon dioxide or dry ice. You're using dry ice to freeze the bugs.
Got it. All right. Jenny Morris has two questions. Number one is, what sort of decon routine is recommended after working for the canine and the handler?
So when a police officer pulls someone over and they have a big bundle of drugs in the back seat, you don't need a dog. That's the same thing with bed bugs. You're not going to take your dog into a very high infested area. So that's kind of part of the concern. You only bring your dog in when it's a hard to find thing or you're working a large area. So that's number one. You're not taking them into high risk environments. Number two is bed bugs. They can feed on pets, but they prefer people. So bed bugs don't crawl really well around dog fur and stuff like that. And also dogs' blood is warmer than ours, and they prefer the human blood temperature over a dog's blood temperature. So I've been doing this for 13 years. I've never seen a single bed bug on my dog. One time I found ticks here in Las Vegas, and that's the only time I've ever had an issue with any bugs getting on my dogs. So the biggest thing is you don't take them into a very heavy infested unit. And even if you do come across somewhere where there might be an issue, I don't really have a process because that's not really a concern, at least for me. And in 13 years, I've never had anything like that happen.
Awesome. And Diego, here's the second one, and I'll let you answer first and then I'll jump in too. But she's asking, or Miss Morris is asking, what's the best source material for training, i.e. scent logic, socks, live bugs, dead bugs? What do you find best?
100% my answer to that question is what you find in the environment. So let's say you get called out to do a block of rooms and as you're talking to your pest control company or the maintenance guy, they say, we think it's that room or something, and you find live bed bugs sitting on a couch or a bed or something, set up your inspection in a way where you can search and try to finish on whatever that positive room is. You can't pay your dog on anything better than what's there because you don't have any training aids, you don't have your odor, you don't have anything else like that. So that's 100% my number one answer. What you find out in the field, and you can set up your inspection to train your dog on that specific odor.
And for imprinting live bugs for you?
I collect bugs myself. And I do imprint them on bugs that I find out in the wild. Yeah. So for imprinting, that's what I've used.
Okay. I'll just kind of add my 2 cents there. Now, at full disclosure, ScentLogix is one of our sponsors. And then also cheapbedbugs.com is also one of our sponsors. So Tommy at cheapbedbugs.com, love you as well. So having given the full disclosure there, me personally, I've found a lot of success with the initial imprint on ScentLogix. My only knock, if I have one on ScentLogix, is there's so much odor coming off of that large packet or satchel. That's not true in the real world. So I may do maybe a few reps on the ScentLogix to get my dog, as long as the dog understands the game. I'll start the imprint method with that. And then I will move to live and then dead bugs. So for us in the casino world, like Diego already touched on it, either live or all evidence. For us in the hotel world, it is almost exclusively all evidence because whether we find a dead one or a live one in a room, we're going to have to comp that room and we're going to have costs. Guest claim is going to have to get involved. Hotel ops, all these other people are going to have to get involved. So all of those dogs are all evidence because we want to find those dead ones too. So if that answers your question, Jenny, I appreciate it.
Before you move on, let me add on to that. So it's also very important to generalize your dogs with lab ordered bugs like from cheapbedbugs.com. I know there's another one called like dakotabedbugs.com. Because when you go to certify at for certain places, they might get their bed bugs from there. And I've personally can smell a difference between a live bug, a wild bug vial, and a vial that's been ordered from somebody who maintains them in a lab. So your dogs have to generalize. And it also will help you when you're out in the field doing real stuff, because when your dogs generalize to multiple versions of the bedbug odor, they'll be more accurate in there when they find stuff.
That's a great point. And actually, Dr. Ashbrook, if you wouldn't mind coming in on that for just a second, but also if you
I want to.
If you could chat just a little bit about the difference, because I hear a lot about Harlan strain, and then I noticed some of your stuff about McCall strain. What can you talk a little bit about that, and what do we really need to worry about as detection dog handlers here in North America in particular?
Okay, so yes, and that great. Thank you for adding me in because I did want to chime in there after you guys were talking about the different concentrations and the smells between strains. So the Harold Harlan strain, I'll start with that. It is named after Harold Harlan. He's an entomologist. He was either an entomologist or in the military, but he collected bed bugs, I believe, in the 1960s or 1970s at Fort Dix. And so it was originally the Fort Dix strain, became Harold Harlan strain. And essentially this guy, Harold Harlan, he didn't respond to bed bug bites. So not him, his wife. His wife doesn't respond to bed bug bites. And so he feeds the bed bugs on his wife. And when bed bugs resurged in the 90s, nobody had bed bugs, right? I mean, it wasn't a pest of concern. And so he gave everybody who needed a lab strain of bed bugs his bed bug strain, the Harold Harlan population. And so that's like the reference strain, if you will, for experiments, because it represents a pseudo-natural population, but not really, because natural bed bugs nowadays are way different than what we had in the past, right? Because they're so resistant to insecticides. And so to add to that, the differences in the odors is we assayed the Harlan strain and the McCall strain. So the McCall is from McCall, Florida. It's a pest control company that actually gave it to us. And so they gave it to us, and We just used it for experiments because it had survived a heat treatment previously. So that's why we were using it for things. And I didn't really go into detail about it in the presentation, and I wish I did a little bit further. But what we found in general is that females emitted higher concentrations of pheromone compared to males. And then the lab strain had higher concentrations of the pheromone compared to the field strain. And so that would go to what you guys were saying, right? Higher concentrations are more indicative of the lab strain, maybe an unrealistic setting, whereas your field strains, they're emitting lower concentrations of pheromones. They might smell a little bit differently just because they're not producing as much as that material.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you, Doc. All right, next question is for Diego, but actually, Doctor, you could jump in on this too, is how do you know that 48 hours is enough time after treatment before taking in the dog?
So the 48-hour thing, I showed up to a hotel that wanted the rooms back within 48 hours. And I felt that that may be a little too short, but I was learning from a guy who was also doing this the same process. And so the reason I know it works is because I tested it. So I would go in after a room was heat treated, and we would check the rooms 48 hours later, and when they were clear, my dogs would also clear them. So it's simply from experience. But in my opinion, the 7 to 14 days is a better option. But that particular hotel is on the strip, and they want on the Las Vegas Strip, and they want their rooms back. So 48 hours is all they would give us, and we were able to make it work.
Hotel managers are fainting at the idea of 14 days. I can promise you. All right. So next question from Elena is just, could you please share your info, name, and email? I will send out an email to everyone that signed up for this class with contact information for both Diego and Dr. Ashton. So I'll make sure everybody gets that. Another question from Kim. Are poultry farms having an issue with bed bugs, or is that just folklore?
It's amazing how big of issues they have with bed bugs. It is so bad that they didn't even want us calling them bed bugs. They wanted us to call them poultry bugs because they didn't want the workers knowing that they were actually bed bugs. I'm talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of bed bugs. Like I probably have never seen more bed bugs in my life besides this poultry farm. And I've seen some pretty bad situations. They were getting moved around by the manure tracks. And this is kind of a funny thing, is a lot of, whether you think this, believe in this or not, a lot of people are making changes in poultry production, right? For animal welfare purposes. And so they're having these cage-free environments, right? For poultry production. And actually, at the barn, that's where they had all of the bed bugs, was in the cage-free poultry environments, not in the caged environment. And the idea was, I guess, the cage-free setting creates more space for the bed bugs to exist and hide. Now, bed bugs also do well in the meat side of poultry. So they do well in cage-free egg production and the meat production in poultry environments because they have similar cage setups. And so because of that similar environment, they both do well there. They feed on chickens readily.
I only know them from Chick-fil-A.
I know, right?
All right. Another question from, I believe, Karita. Do you aim to train the dogs to find single bed bugs or bigger infestations, as in dozens or thousands, or meaning dozens, not thousands? I can tell you on the casino resort side, we are absolutely lowering that threshold to find single bugs. Because again, if there's one single bug in a giant suite, we end up having to comp that room, and it just opens up Pandora's box of guest claim opportunities. But Diego, what threshold are you normally trying for?
So this ties into when you were talking about imprinting. So if you imprint on a large amount of odor, dogs, and this is according to Dr. Nathan Hall from Texas A&M, your dog will generalize up to 10 times as many bugs or 10 times as few bugs. So if you imprint on a large amount, your dog's not going to indicate on something more than 10 times less. until you mark and reward that size amount. So that's something that you just have to. That's why training is so important. If you're training on a vial with 20 bugs, you got to make sure you also train and mark and pay on a vial with only 5 bugs, and then your dog should be able to find one, which it's a lot harder to train with a single bug, but you can do it. But if you get within just a few bugs, your dog can generalize 10 times either way. So that's kind of what you go to. But yes, almost if your dog can't find a single bug, then you should probably make that one of your goals to work towards small amounts.
Absolutely. And you do mention the vials, and there's different containers. I know at Cheap Bed Bugs, you can buy a bag of bugs, which is no glass, but also these vials. It's just an important reminder. Make sure that you're proofing off of the vials, off of the bag of bugs, no matter where you're getting them, at least if you're purchasing them commercially. All of the manufacturers, or I should say, all of the providers will send you separately in a different package the packing material, so you can in fact proof your dogs on that stuff. So just a good reminder there. All right, let's see here. Do you mean that bed bugs that are bred in a lab have pheromones that smell different than bed bugs found in real places? I guess, Doc, you can answer that to the pheromones, but of course, I think to some extent they are what they eat as well. So if they're feeding in the wild, whether it's chickens or human beings, that's probably a little bit different than what they're getting in the lab. But I'll let you answer that there, Doc.
Yeah, that's a good point. If there's probably some composition right in that aggregation pheromone blend because of what they're feeding upon, that would make sense. It works with cockroaches. So cockroaches do have variable smells based off of what they're eating. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they probably aren't going to smell that different. I think it is just the intensity of the odor. That's kind of what I'm referring to more, is that the lab strains are going to have a more intense bedbug odor. And it is, like I said, it's diagnostic. Once you know what a bedbug smells like, you're never going to forget it. You're never going to be able to, you're going to know what that smells like, and it's not going to be anything that you're going to confuse it with. And so I would just say that the field strains are going to be less intense.
Excellent. And I think our last question is, but have you actually taken a bug that died hour 1, waited 48 hours, then put it in a lineup for your dog and see its reaction to it?
I have not. However, I have had dogs indicate on areas where there was a hide previously, not that long not much longer, not very long after we ran them, that there was a hide there before and the hide was removed, and they indicated on that. So the lingering odor is still going to be there. So you want to make sure that if it's lingering, it's had time to dissipate. And if it was a dead bug, that also, like, the odor is no longer being produced by that bug.
Excellent. At least for us on the casino and the resort side, on the all evidence side, we're using bugs that are alive throughout their stage of death. And sometimes there's dead ones, sometimes there's live ones, there's babies, eggs. We've used that from the moment we've got them where they're all alive for months and months afterward, when they're all dead and so desiccated they start coming out of the bag. So for an all evidence dog, we're using all of those stages with those dogs. So the last question, same person, is just say, do you know when a dead bug starts to stop smelling like a live bug?
Okay. I think I know the answer to that one as best as I can. And this is secondhand information for me. So Dr. Gail Geddes, who was in the Cal Berkeley, I believe she was in the Cal system. I believe she was teaching that as the instant the bed bug dies, the odor stops being produced. And that odor would be produced from both live bed bugs and viable eggs. And as soon as either one of them stops being viable, the odor also stops being produced. Therefore, that's when it starts to disintegrate.
And I see you kind of shaking your head there, Dr. Ashbrook. Is there any kind of difference when a bug first dies? There's still, I imagine, some moisture there. It hasn't fully desiccated yet. Would that change any portion of the odor picture?
Yeah, and so that's kind of what we saw in that heat. heat study, right? Once they were dead, those same bugs that were, I took bed bugs, I fed half of them, right? Used them for the experiment. I took the other half, I put them in the freezer, I killed them, and then I heated those dead bed bugs. And so, I mean, we were looking for higher concentrations of the pheromones, but we didn't see it in those dead bugs. Now we do know, and I see somebody in the chat chiming in here, there are live bedbug pheromones in their feces and shed skins. Yes, we do. And I don't think Diego or Ryan were saying that they don't linger in the feces or the shed skins. They do. I think they're talking about the actual bug itself,
absolutely,
emitting pheromones. And so once the bug itself is dead, yes, they would not be actively producing those pheromones. They may still have some in their body that dissipate not long afterwards, but they would not have a high amount, at least as far as we know, I would suspect.
I guess
I would also
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I would imagine it does change over time, and the reason why I say that is because I know with termites, the cadaver odor profile changes over time with them too. So I assume that it would with bed bugs.
Excellent. And I guess somewhat to that point, would you think that there was a difference in the odor profile between a bed bug that was killed in a heat treatment versus one that just starved to death or just died naturally or got squashed or whatever?
Probably not. I imagine they probably wouldn't smell that different. I mean, I guess one difference is if you squished them and got their pheromones out, and then you heat killed them and got their pheromones out, maybe those would somehow smell different, or similar to each other. But I can't imagine that there would be that much difference between the source of death.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it as far as Q&A. Number one, thank you all for coming. A couple thank yous just real quick. Again, I mentioned once already, Tommy at cheapbedbugs.com. Thank you for helping sponsor this. Dog Wizard Las Vegas as well as one of our big sponsors, and of course ScentLogix as well. So thank you to all of them. And of course, this would not be possible today at all without the help of Diego Rodriguez. Thank you for participating in this, but also thank you for putting us in touch with Dr. Ashton. This has been tremendously informative, even for people that have been in the business for a while. I can't thank you enough. We're getting tons of thank yous in the chat. And to answer a couple questions here, this was recorded. We will put this up on the ICRWDA library website, which again is free. And then one last little plug for you bedbug folks. We do a bedbug detection canine trial competition once a year. So if you've got a bedbug detection dog and want to come and put it up against everybody else for some fun competition every October, come on out. We'd love to have you. But with that, I'll close it with you, Diego, if you want to say a couple last words, and then Dr. Ashbrook, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, no, this was wonderful, and I think you and I had spoken about doing bedbug certifications for people
Yes.
under your banner. So
absolutely,
that's something that we got to discuss what the standards are going to be, and to make sure they're the gold standard. But yeah, that's something that I think we're planning to do shortly. And thank you. This was wonderful. I got notes here myself. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Dr. Ashbrook.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for the invitation. Happy to talk about bed bugs or something else in the future if you guys ever need. I also have a delusory parasitosis talk too. So if you want that, I can give that presentation also. So.
That's some fun stuff, isn't it?
Yep, it is. We deal with it pretty regularly too. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. We'll talk soon, and everybody else out there, please be safe. And we look forward to seeing you at the next ICRWDA webinar. Have a great one, everybody.